I'm a Belgian, and I feel deeply ashamed of my country for what is happening today. So my title is today, Why Should We Prefer the Western Civilization to the Others? So at the beginning of this short address, I would like to make two things very clear. On the one hand, as a Spenglerian, I'm convinced about the radical equality and equivalence of all great civilizations. On the other hand, however, as an Hesperialist, that means as a Western patriot, I'm equally convinced about the fact that we should prefer our own civilization to the others. Is this a contradiction? I do not think so. And I would like to dedicate the following few minutes to solving this apparent problem in order to show that both initial statements are not in contradiction, but rather imply each other. Indeed, I'm often confronted with well-meaning patriots justifying their love and care for our civilization with hyperbolic claims based on things like the advances of Western technology, the progress in freedom and liberty based on Western values, or the beauty of Western art. While it is true that we are fully justified to highlight these items, they should not be overestimated. Indeed, imagine a foreign civilization would suddenly make some groundbreaking technological advances the West would be unable to catch up with. Would that mean we suddenly had lost the right to love our civilization and had to convert to this new hypothetical civilization? Similarly, concerning Western values, our times, as precisely today, are characterized by a spectacular erosion, even perversion of those values, as freedom has started to mean slavery, peace, war, and ignorance strength. Should we start now to relinquish our civilization instead of fighting to the death for its survival? And finally, concerning art, can anyone trying truly and honestly to understand the beauty of Egyptian, Greek, Japanese, or Chinese art assert that Western art is somehow superior, different? Most certainly. Nearer to our emotional world? Absolutely. But better? I would strongly disagree. Hence, basing our patriotism on any form of absolute superiority of our Western civilization seems to be fraught with a lot of problems, so that we should better look for other reasons. Is it because the Maya did not use the wheel or utilitarian metalworking that their splendid frescoes or reliefs are less impressive? Is it because the ancient Indians were thoroughly disinterested in historiography that their philosophical reflections on nothingness and being are less deep? Is it because the Chinese were never able to develop a proper formal logic because of the peculiarities of their language and writing system that their empires were less grandiose? We could go on in this way a long time, but the result would be the same. All great civilizations have, in their own chronological and geographical context, and based on their inimitable initial psychological assumptions, developed wonderful expressions of humanity. And comparing them in order to establish a hierarchy is not only anachronistic and unjust, but also misses the essential point there is to make. All civilizations are quests to transfer into actuality a specific and unique aspect of transcendence, and as such must be seen rather in complementarity than in hierarchy. This leads to three consequences. First, all civilizations have their right to live and to be considered on their own grounds. There are no superior or inferior civilizations. And even though it is obvious that there are clear differences between them and even spectacular punctual deficiencies in some, these have to be interpreted in the holistic context of the general cultural economy and mindset of their civilization. Second, anyone who truly immerses himself in the close study of a non-European civilization understands that civilizations are complementary but cannot be artificially mixed without dissolving. Indeed, all civilizations are based on a unique mindset from which all their concrete expressions emanate. These expressions can occasionally inspire other civilizations, even though this generally means a radical if not misinterpretation. But their basic assumptions cannot be mixed. exactly as radically different languages like Chinese, Arabic, and Latin cannot be mixed. Third, and this is the whole point of this speech, we as Westerners have not only the right, but even the moral duty to prefer our civilization to the others and to cultivate a sane Hesperialist patriotism. And that for several reasons. The first reason refers to what has often been called the Ordo Caritatis. As human beings, we are placed in a hierarchy of different categories of belonging. We belong to a specific sex, a specific family, a specific place, a specific region, a specific nation, a specific civilization, often identical to a specific religion, and of course, but only as largest and fuzziest category, to humanity. And as concrete solidarity is logically felt and acted upon on the basis of shared similarities, it is obvious that we have the right and duty to love and defend our civilization more than we should love and defend humanity or other civilizations. A second aspect results from the simple fact that there is no alternative to loving our civilization, as it would mean a lifetime of study, immersion, and self-assimilation to truly and emotionally partake in any other civilization. It can and has been done, but as a huge price and only as fruit of an enormous devotion. Of course, there are those who mix and match and also those who only want to focus on humanity. But the first ones generally remain caught in mere superficialities, often even huge misunderstandings resulting from their deficient knowledge of other civilizations as well as of their own, whereas the latter ones, by cutting themselves from their true roots in the name of humanity, are at the origin of wokeness, and thus responsible for the innumerable perversions, even the destruction not only of our own, but also of other civilizations. Third, there is transcendence. All civilizations, without any exception, are based on a specific outlook on transcendence, and it is the actualization of this transcendence that represents the initial thesis, while the abandonment of transcendence for the sake of immanence represents the antithesis, and the conscious but short rational return to tradition, the final synthesis in the history of a civilization before it enters fossilization. Realizing transcendence is the true, even the unique aim of our existence, and thus we have to embrace Christianity, the faith that is so inseparably linked to Western civilization, with love and enthusiasm, as being our own possible path towards true spiritual self-actualization. This also implies a necessary but often overlooked correlate. Only those elements of our Western civilization are worthy of our love and support that are stemming from our collective quest for transcendence. And fourth and finally, there is destiny. Indeed, if we believe in transcendence, as we should do, then we also should reflect upon the question why we have been incarnated at precisely the time and place we are in now. Our life was meant to have an aim, a sense, and hence being a Westerner in the 21st century is not a regrettable accident, but a mission. Defending the West against all its outer and inner enemies, drawing courage, strength, and wisdom from the traditions of our forefathers, and keeping the faith despite all temptations is not optional. It is what we are here for. And this will be, of course, the subject also of one of my new books on European conservatism that will be published in a couple of weeks with the French publisher Salvatore. Now, some will probably say that the historical morphology, of which I'm an adept, foretells with relentless precision the impending synthesis, decline, and fossilization of the West. Why then bother remaining on a sinking ship instead of cynically watching Rome burning from a secure distance? In my view, the end of a civilization is not less important than its beginning, exactly as old age is no worse or better than infancy. Canonizing, sublimating, and transmitting the memory of the West to future civilizations is certainly as important a task as establishing its foundations. And fortifying and defending an aging civilization is not less heroic than expanding its borders in the days of youth. Also, even though the number of people really feeling and behaving as Westerners is dramatically shrinking by the day, and though our creative possibilities seem largely dried up, it is still our duty as last Westerners to transmit to our children what our forefathers have built. And finally, we should never forget that our human mission is not limited to the defense of our civilization, but consists essentially in our personal quest for transcendence. Even if we were assured of the ultimate political failure of our endeavors, and to a certain extent, as Tolkien once said, all history is nothing else than a long defeat, we would nonetheless be obliged to follow our ideal until the end, as we know that the true reward and fulfillment of our efforts is not to be expected in this world, but beyond. Thank you very much for your attention, and long live the West.